What's up, everybody? This is Zach with the Nerd Cave Network, and I am joined along with
Troy Denning.
Mr. Denning. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's wonderful to be down here in Pensacola.
You're enjoying Pensacon, I'm sure?
Oh, I'm enjoying it a great deal. Having a blast.
And this is your first one, right?
This is my first one.
How are the fans here, treating you?
Oh, they're treating me great. I've had a lot of people come up with books with my whole collection. And I always love that. You know, people walk up with 10 or 12 books and they say, "Hey, do you have time to sign these?" Oh, man, I love nothing more.
Yeah, it makes you feel good because they're avid fans. So
and they bothered to lug 12 hardbacks around the convention.
Yeah,
I'm flattered.
That would speak volumes to me, literally.
Yeah, exactly.
So how did you get into writing? I know a lot of people have kind of their own origin story. So how was that for you?
How I got into writing was reading a bunch of the classics like Asimov and Clarke and some of the old-time masters, and thinking, I could do that. And so at the age of about 14, I started to write my stories in loose-leaf notebooks, and eventually I started to type them up and send them off. And after I got a suitcase full of rejection slips, I finally decided maybe it's not as easy as it looks.
Mm-hmm.
And I was probably close to giving up when Ben Bova sent me a signed rejection slip, which was kind of code for like, okay, you got potential. So at that point, I started to really get into it, and it only took me 20 years after first starting to actually publish a book. So.
Well, being able to stick with something says a lot about a person, because a lot of people this day and age just give up after they don't achieve it. So
yeah, well, writing's like that. It's not something that you can learn overnight. You have to dedicate yourself to the practice. You have to do it every day, and you have to learn to take criticism, which is one of the great things I learned in college. I went to college to study English composition, and the most valuable thing to come out of that was the writers' workshops, where you couldn't actually talk back when somebody was telling you what they didn't like about your story.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was ego bruising. It was like, I played college football, and I didn't come out of practice sessions as sore as I came out of our workshop sessions. But it was invaluable. And, after that experience, it only took me another, 5 or 8 years to actually write a novel after I'd finished college studying a novel.
So you just mentioned that you played football in college. Where did you play at?
I played Division III ball at Beloit College, which is in Wisconsin, at the very southern edge. It's just really kind of northwest of Chicago. And it was a grand experience. It wasn't scholarships or anything, but it was still 4 or 5 hours a day.
Yeah, exactly. And I know from being involved with music and everything, something like that, along with writing, teaches you a work ethic that makes you into something. So.
Oh yeah, exactly. It was I think it's hard to overestimate the amount of grit that it takes to be a writer, because there is such a long learning curve and so much time where you send something off and you don't get positive feedback. You're not hitting the mark. You're not good enough yet, and you kind of had to learn those same lessons condensed in a football field. You have to go out there and practice hard every day. You get hurt, you have to get up and play anyway. So that work ethic, I think, is common and paid off.
Exactly, from all the books that you've written. And we'll touch on Star Wars a little bit here. You've written several Star Wars books, and I actually own all of them. So I've enjoyed your writing. How was it like to be in that universe, to get the chance to play with the characters that you grew up with?
Oh, well, I was such a Star Wars fan. I mean, I saw the first Star Wars movie about 2 months after it came out. I was a senior in high school at the time, had just graduated. So I went in, my jaw dropped, and I thought, oh my God, I just can't believe this. And I had actually, through a long series of coincidences, I lived in the mountains, so it was a long drive to the theater. I couldn't get tickets until the midnight showing, so I didn't end up showing back up at home until dawn the next morning, where my father, the undersheriff, was waiting for me, thinking I had been out partying all night long, which any other time would probably have been an accurate assumption. But I came in and he's like, "Oh man, you're he was really reading me the riot act, and I said, Dad, I just saw a movie that it's so good it changed my life. And he said, yeah, right. Rolled his
Sure.
eyes. Right? Well, it was only about 10, 15 years later that I was actually able to prove to him with Star by Star that it had changed my life.
So what was your favorite thing to do in the Star Wars universe? Was it creating a new character or going to a new place?
I think my favorite thing to do was writing Han and Leia. I love to write Han and Leia. Their voices. I hear Han's voice in my head pretty naturally, and my wife has every bit of Leia's sarcasm, so I could hear Leia going off on Han just by imagining my wife's voice sometimes. And when I didn't get it right, I'd say, hey, this isn't feeling right. Why don't you read it? And she'd look at it and say, oh, no, that's not what Leia said. She'd say this. So I had a little bit of help there.
So having that just natural ability to bounce off of your wife was
exactly.
That's really cool. Now, you've also been in space with another series that's loved by fans, and that's the Halo series.
Yeah, Halo is. I had read a few Halo books when I heard that they were looking for some new authors to do some Halo books, and I had loved what I was reading. So I sent them a note and said I might be interested in doing this, and they said, "Oh, that'd be great." And then I, of course, got in deeper and deeper, because when you start into a universe, you're kind of a casual fan. And then as you're going to write in it, you have to become much more than a casual fan. You have to be really sink yourself into the lore and try to learn all of these details. So the more I kept sinking into that, the more I realized that this is like peeling back an onion. Like in Star Wars, you learn one thing and you learn it and you've learned it. It's a huge, huge expanse of knowledge, but once you've learned a thing, you learn it. And in Halo, you learn a thing, then you peel back another layer.
And there's something else.
And there's something else, and it means something else. And you realize you're in the wrong character's viewpoint or in the wrong alien's viewpoint, And it's like, this thing just keeps changing. I loved it. I also loved that it was such a gritty universe. It was like, oh, this is where I can do all the stuff that I couldn't do in Star Wars.
Yeah. So. It's very lived in, and from the religious side of the Sangheili and everything, compared to the UNSC with we're a military. It's an interesting aspect to play off of.
Yeah, it was. And one of my favorite characters in the book I wrote, Last Light, was a brute, a Juhani. Yeah, and I got to write him from his perspective and his point of view, and he's still a religious Juhani. He's one of the few that is still really into the whole belief in the great journey. And so I got to write from his point of view, and he's kind of a tactical genius, which is pretty rare for him. And he was just a blast to write into that whole story.
Well, I definitely look forward to reading that one because I'm a big Halo fan. So seeing that you wrote one, I was like, that's a must on my list.
Oh, well, thanks. I've enjoyed the heck out of Halo. It's just been a wonderful experience, especially. I have to tell this story. Usually in Star Wars, we were used to not using too many curse words. And so I wrote with that instinctively in my manuscript. I didn't for Halo. I wrote not too many curse words. And then it came back where the editor had inserted a few more curse words. Hey, we need to spice this up. And I was like, all right, this is fun.
Got to let off put on the throttle a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, you said you had to do some studying up on Halo. Did you ever play any of the games?
Oh, yeah. I wasn't able to play all of them before I actually was writing the book, but I continued to play them through, and I've actually played all 5 games at the the most basic level. I can't remember what it's called, the easy level, basically. So I get through the story, but I'm not collecting the heads. I'm not.
You're not going online.
I'm not going out there and getting any awards. I would be an embarrassment to be on any of the member teams. But I've gotten pretty good with a sniper rifle. I finally figured out that the smart thing to do is to pick up a sniper rifle wherever you can and then stand back as far along as you can and shoot everything in sight before you go in.
Exactly. Yeah. Just thins the field up.
Yeah.
So is there any other thing you want to, want our listeners, viewers to know about so they can find it?
Well, I just look for my stuff. I've written 12 Star Wars novels. They're all legends now, but they're all part of a pretty unique story. I mean, if you take a look at the expanded universe and what Lucasfilm and its various publishing partners did with that, it's it's an enterprise that I don't think has been duplicated and never will be duplicated again in terms of the continuity and the extension, the expanse and the extent of it. And Halo, they're getting close, and they are very, very sharp and very aware of continuity. They're also very flexible with helping to make their various partners, giving them the freedom to do what they want to do and keep it inside the boundaries. So that's one of the things I really loved about working with them. And, I think it's going to show, and I think it is going to show in the product, and I think it shows in certainly how much fun I had writing Last Light.
Well, I definitely look forward to it. Where can people find you on social media?
They can find me mostly on Facebook. I have a Troy Denning account. It should be obvious which Troy Denning I am. I'm the one that has books and stuff on it. And they can also find me on Twitter at T Denning Author.
All right. Well, thank you for the awesome interview, and look forward to reading your book.
All right, thank you. It was a real pleasure, Zach.
Thank you. This has been Zach with the Nerd Cave Network, and have a week.